Let me introduce to you to Kerry Anne MacDougal, and she is the founder of a very successful creative art marketing enterprise in Prince Edward Island called Insight Studios. Many of you have had the pleasure to be on with Kerry Anne, either through programming that we've done or through other initiatives that her business and herself have done around Atlantic Canada. But really excited for this session that we've titled The Art of Networking. And I think it's one of those, at times, lost arts. And it's really one of those things that I think helps connects us in a variety of different ways. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to you, Kerry Anne.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. I know you have a lot on your plate, so taking extra time to go out and do things is important. And I applaud you for doing that. It's good to get out and sharpen up our skills. And when Jonathan had suggested maybe I could help with one of these sandbox sessions, and I was thinking about a topic area, one of the things that keeps coming up for me is I haven't networked in a really long time with COVID and with everything. And even I find meetings on Zoom are a little bit different, and so now we're getting back out. And I was just at an event maybe, I don't know, a month and a half or 2 months ago, like our local Chamber of Commerce President's Awards. And I went out and there was, again, 300 or 400 people in a room, and I kind of froze a little bit. And a big part of my job is networking. I started my business 15 years ago with nothing. It was a bootstrapping business, and all I did was go out and hustle and meet people and network. And I recall just how nervous I was at that time, almost to a point where I would be paralyzed by it. I did things like this. I would go to sessions, I would read books, I would talk to people, and a couple of things along the way clicked for me. It really changed my perspective on networking and made me feel a little bit more comfortable. And over the years, I've really enjoyed it, and networking in all sorts of scenarios and situations. I had come to really enjoy it. And then again, a couple of years go by and you're in lockdown, and then you have to go back out. So that's why we thought this would be kind of a neat presentation to do. It's light, it's fun. I think we can all benefit from it. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we'll get rolling here. Okay, am I working okay?
Yep, you're good.
Perfect. Okay. And please, there's a chat box there. Feel free to ask questions. I can't really see it well when I'm on my screen, but Jonathan will help me out. So to kind of get rolling, I thought there's not many of us on the call. Maybe we'll do just a quick roundtable for those of you who can participate. That would be super. Considering it's a networking session, maybe we'll start with a little networking. So yeah, maybe we'll just go around. Jonathan, if you don't mind calling the names, I can only see them in a weird order here, but if you just would tell us a little bit about, oh, sorry, where am I here? All right, just about who you are, the business, where you're joining from. If you have a tip, a networking tip to tell the group, please feel free to share. You certainly don't have to, but if you have one that comes to mind.
Awesome. Tara.
Hello, my name's Tara Cruz, and I own Transform Grossmorn, a retreat business in Grossmorn National Park, where I usually live. I'm currently in Ontario right now, visiting family. The tip that works for me is making sure that there's alcohol involved, because if I can have a glass of wine, I'm much calmer and much better networker.
Listen right up. Yeah. Girl, thank you.
Awesome advice. I wished I would have sent each of you like a bottle of wine to start this session. I don't know how I would have invoiced that one through, but it would have been interesting. Chantel.
Awesome.
Hi, I'm Chantel from Doketown, New Brunswick. I'm from the Ledges Inn, and in a past life, I actually organize networking and trade show events all across the country. So the biggest thing is stay off your phone. If you're at an event, like, there's nothing that makes you look more disconnected and more like you don't want to engage than sitting there. And it's just second nature for so many people. So that's my 2 cents.
Awesome. Thank you. Stella.
Good one.
Hi, I'm managing and co-owner of the Dreamcatcher Lodge in Stephenville. and Stephenville, Newfoundland, that is, in case some of you hadn't heard of it before. And I just try to attend everything I can. Wherever there's an AGM or a social event or a training event or a trade show, or just to put, because I do a lot of reading, so to put people's faces to, like, say, Jonathan, for instance. I now know what Jonathan looks like because I can see him, but I've seen your name many times because I read a lot about Grossmorn and how you guys do everything up there. So that's how I just try to attend everything that I can.
Good for you. Thank you, Stella.
I was going to ask if I've disappointed, like, did I actually meet the...
Not at all. No, no, not a bit.
Angela.
Hi, yes, I'm Angela Whitlock. We have a business at Crab Mountain, and it's in New Brunswick. So we have an inn, and I'm trying to think of any tips that I have for networking, but I just try to look approachable, I guess, and try to find something that's of interest, you know, to start a conversation. And I'm still learning, so that's why I'm coming to this, because I'm a little bit shy. I don't always appear that way, but I am a bit shy. So when I get into large settings, it takes me a bit to get comfortable. And so, yeah, I'm here to learn a little bit more. Thank you.
Thanks, Angela. Carol.
Hi, Carol here. I'm currently in Quebec City, but working for Wonderbolt Production in Newfoundland. I'm the co-artistic director of the Circus Fest there, and as of a tip, I would say a bit like the Angela just shared with us, I'm a little bit shy, so maybe to stay my own self whenever I'm in those contexts, which like is not always easy because sometimes it can like seem awkward to start a conversation or to engage with people, but just to try to share personal experience sometimes and try to bring some new content whenever I try to engage with people.
Thanks, Carol. Oh, and people, you've got to go to Circus Fest. It is spectacular. Tanya.
Hi, I'm Tanya Norman. I actually sat in on a session that Kerry Anne did last week with a mutual colleague of ours. So when I saw this come across, I thought it would be really great to attend. I work with Agriculture Agri-Food Canada, and I'm calling from St. John's, Newfoundland. And, you know, we do attend conferences and AGMs and that kind of thing. And I do enjoy meeting new people, but I think I'm out of practice a little bit with the networking. So sometimes what I try to do is, you know, drop my colleague's name if I know that the other if, you know, I know that he's known in some of the groups, right? Just to kind of ease the conversation. So that would be a suggestion as well.
That's a good one.
Thanks. Amber.
Hi, I'm Amber Fitzgerald. I'm coming from St. John's, Newfoundland, and I work for Hospitality Newfoundland and Labrador. I've attended some of the GMIST workshops in the past and some of their online courses and love what you guys are doing. Networking tips, alcohol doesn't hurt for the most part. So I appreciate somebody else's comment there. But if I know, I try to reach out and kind of look at if it's on Facebook or LinkedIn or particular events, if there's some people that I might know that are attending, to try to get a little context of a few people in the room that I can at least go to and have an idea who they are, or if we have a mutual connection or I know what they do, then at least I have a conversation starter.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Awesome. Thanks. Anastasia.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Oh, shut myself off again. Okay, hang on. I work with the COA in St. John's. Been in around this business for a little while, and what I always find with some of these networking events, if they have a trade show there, like it's a great, like just visiting some of the booths kind of get you, you know, familiar with some of the companies that are you know, presenting there, but also establish some contacts. But also, you know, it's the crowd that hangs out on the fringe, hey? So you look for that are the most interesting. So for me, I always look and say, okay, is there anybody around the fringe that needs a little bit of help or whatever like that? So that's where I usually tend to. So that's always great conversation starter. Conversations.
Always the most interesting. It's true.
It's the cool kids.
It's the cool kids. That's right. That's awesome.
Melanie.
Hi there, I'm Melanie Jellett, and I'm with Canadian Parks and Wilderness Society, and I'm based in Moncton, New Brunswick. So we're a charitable organization that works on conservation issues. And yeah, I think similarly to what others have said, just kind of out of practice in terms of networking, haven't been to in-person conferences a lot recently, and also a little bit shy. So yeah, I think what the previous person just said about like kind of looking to who isn't in conversation and going over to them, and that's sort of a good networking tip. Maybe not approaching everyone who's already talking amongst each other. So yeah, that's it for me.
Thanks, Melanie. Brandon.
Hey, I'm Brandon Cooney. I'm the sustainability coordinator for the town of CBS. So I sit on the tourism board and stuff and do a lot of work with tourism through them. And I'm also the owner of Rugged Rock Media, which is a commercial photography and videography business. And most of my clients are in the tourism industry. I'll let you from Conception Bay South, and I'm a big fan of one-on-one networking. So I'll generally have a few people that I'm kind of like admiring where they're at in their business, and I'll just shoot them an email and ask for, a chat informational interview or something, and then kind of go prepared with knowing what they've been doing and what I'm trying to learn more about.
Excellent. Thanks, Brandon. Did I get everybody? I think so. Awesome. Kerry Anne, back to you.
Thank you so much. So really quickly, can we do a show of hands? Who would classify themselves as a confident networker? Just to give me a gauge. So if you feel like you're a confident networker, just raise your hand for me.
See, nobody's going to do that because they feel like you're going to call them out right now, eh? And
I'm not raising my hand either. Okay, so yeah, I'm thank you so much for that. I think it's good just to get a gauge on who's in the room, and I really appreciate all of your tips. And we all kind of network really differently, and it's really about finding your own way and what works for you. And so, like I said, I've over the years really tried to hone the art of networking, and have studied it quite a bit, and some of it's worked and some of it has been a terrible failure. So there's stuff in this presentation I hope that will really resonate with you. By the sounds of kind of people's tips and what they're sharing, I'd say a lot of us are on the same page with how we like to approach networking. So if you can pull away one or two little things, that's awesome. And if not, that might just not be your style, and you can just continue to kind of find your own. Just a couple things I want to talk through today. So we did our introductions. I want to change the way we kind of view networking. I think just the word networking needs a bit of a rebrand. So we'll talk through that a little bit. Somebody mentioned, and I really appreciate it, this idea of staying true to yourself and being authentic and finding your authentic way to network. And I want to touch on that today. I've got some tips and tricks. Keep it really light. I've outlined some of the characters you're bound to meet as you network, and how to manage some of those situations and different personalities, because you certainly meet all kind. And then at the end, we'll just have a bit of a chit chat, and the presentation should probably be no longer than 15 or 20 minutes to kind of work through. I will just say, I'm actually coming to you today. It doesn't look like it, but I'm coming to you today from Cancun, Mexico. I leave it to me to find a conference room while I'm here. So that's what's happening here. And I don't have full control of who's coming in and out of this room. I just kind of found a corner. So bear with me. The connection seems to be great, which is good, but bear with me if there's some traffic behind me or around me, but I think I'll be okay here for a little bit. So yeah, when we think about this idea of networking, we almost always have this kind of idea in our heads of what it looks like. And it's like that stuffy kind of environment, and there's suits and there's handshakings and formalities. We've got one here, this image here that looks like every chamber mixer pretty well that I go to. The one on the left is this idea of speed networking. It's just this whole kind of idea and image that we have sometimes around these networking events, what they're going to look like, what they're going to feel like. And sometimes they do look like that. And those are places that we want to be, and our colleagues are there, and there's lots of opportunity there. But networking is really happening all the time. And I think that that's one of the things, certainly in my business, Jonathan had referenced, I have a branding agency. And one of the things that I try to remind my clients all the time is that your brand and your personal brand, your corporate brand, your personal brand, they don't live in silos. So you don't just start networking at the networking mixer or at your conference or with your peers or in your industry and then go home and you're somebody else. You're always networking. So whether it is, I met my business partner at the rink because both of our boys played on the same hockey team. And that interaction that we had and that dialogue that we had was networking. I do believe we need a different word for it. We'll talk about that, but it's happening all around us. So what I really want to talk about today is not necessarily the formalities of how to network in that environment, but just how to create great, meaningful relationships no matter where you are. A lot of the stuff we'll talk about kind of puts us back in that environment of that conference or that trade show or whatnot. But really, networking is happening all of the time. So for me, I'd love to swap the word networking for, finding, compatibility or building relationships or having meaningful exchanges. The word networking to me can sometimes feel uncomfortable because I've read the books and I've been to the sessions and it's also a time in how business was done where it was how to walk in a room, how to shake the hands, when to give the business card, when to close the deal, how to follow up. And that idea of networking in that environment is not necessarily one that's conducive to my personality. It's always felt a little forced. It's never felt genuine and natural for me. So that's why I went on that journey to kind of find how do I do it in a way that's not agonizing and it feels really good. So some of the stuff that I've learned, I obviously will talk about, but yeah, networking is happening around us all the time. And for the sake of this particular presentation, we'll talk a lot about the dinners, the Chamber of Commerce, industry events, those types of things, but we're networking right now. So it's not necessarily about formalizing it. It's being aware that it's always happening and there's always an opportunity. But when people say they hate networking, they're uncomfortable with networking, it's often because we've been taught so much about there's a specific way in which to do it. Like, I don't know how many sessions I've sat in around on perfecting your elevator pitch. I have never found an elevator pitch that sounded natural to me or for me. And I have never received an elevator pitch that sounded natural and genuine. And so I went on this, I must not be taking the right course. I must not be doing it right. I must be. And the reality is like, for me, an elevator pitch just isn't authentic. It's not natural. And so I've done away with it. The idea of a business card exchange, we think about the pressure of small talk. And I'm not a real great small talker either. I'm more like, so tell me more about family and your dramas. So small talk has always been really kind of uncomfortable for me. So trying to find that line on how to do it, this pressure to sell something, and then this idea of the follow-up. So these are just some of the rules that I've been taught over the years that just never felt really natural for me. And then I started to see some of the things that worked really well for me. And the root cause really comes down to inauthenticity. You can feel when you're really genuinely connecting with someone and having a great open dialogue, and then you can really feel when it's awkward and kind of forced. So how do we take out the inauthenticity, some of those rules that don't feel good for you, and replace them with some things that are going to work for you that make it enjoyable because you're actually feeling a genuine connection with people. And the idea with networking is that sometimes it does lead to a sale and sometimes it doesn't. And things can come back to you 10 years down the road, 5 years down the road. Actually, one of my very first jobs, Jonathan hired me for to present social media workshops. And that was how long ago? Well, 10 years ago, probably. And then randomly I get a call from Jonathan 10 years later, and here I am. And I'm so grateful. But it's not looking at every opportunity or every person as an opportunity, I guess is the way to put it. It's looking at things and saying, I'm just going to relax into this And it may lead to something and it may not. It may lead to a business partnership. It may lead to finding my next employee. It may lead to this person knowing someone who knows someone. But part of it is just like releasing that kind of monkey on your back when you walk in a room of I'm there to achieve a specific goal, and just be open to anything that might come from that. Yeah, it's great. You build your reputation, stellar reference, going to everything, just being out and participating in everything. And that's really powerful, because in branding, marketing, it takes 7 times for people to see you or hear you to ever really register you once. So just continuing to get your face out there and to be present and to meet people and to connect is really the most authentic, the most powerful way to build your brand. It strengthens your support network. This idea of finding people that you can, and I believe someone mentioned like this idea of one-on-one and looking at someone and reaching out and having that, that mentorship. That's really important. Growing connections. You never know who knows who. I use it oftentimes when I'm networking as a form of research. I ask people certain things about my industry, genuine curiosity, and really networking gives you the opportunity to help somebody else. So like I said, these might not be direct sales, but they're all things that really help you and help your business if you're open-minded, and just get genuinely curious. So that last one, for me, the idea that you're there to help someone else, that's been the biggest game changer for me. That was a light bulb moment. I read it in a book. And it changed everything. Networking is actually not about you at all. So what do the most seasoned, charismatic networkers know that you might not know at the moment or think about is that networking is really about serving and how you make people feel. And when you're helping someone is when your authentic self tends to kind of come to the surface as well, right? So walking into a room, not with, what am I going to say? What am I going to do? What are they going to? How am I going to? But walking in a room and going, how can I help people in this room? And that has been a game changer. And as I watch other people that I admire who network, they're able to do that. They're able to work a room so well because they don't make anything about themselves. Think about it this way. You're at a party, and I've had this happen. I'm sure you have too. You're at a party and somebody comes to the party and they just saunter into your group and they just start asking questions. So Kerry Anne, where are you from? Well, that's really interesting. What do you do? Well, how long have you been doing that? What made you decide to start that business? That's fascinating. How many staff? How many? And they will just ask and be curious and genuine and listen. And they walk away and they don't even tell me, they don't give me a business card or they don't tell me their name, or they all look at the others in the group and go, who was that? That felt really good. So, but then there's people who walk into a party and they join the group and it's their show, the Kerry Anne show. And they talk and they this and they that, like they're trying to sell something, whether it's themselves or something else. So it's this idea of walking in to serve as opposed to walking in to get. And that maybe will resonate with some of you. For me, it was a big game changer. But if you think about it, it really is how we do business. The people that you choose to do business with, the people that you recommend to come to this session or anything else, those we want to work with are people that we like, are people that we kind of get to know a little bit, and people that we trust. So the formalities of that networking, elevator pitch, business card follow-up aren't necessarily going to make me feel something connected. And that's really important part of this whole thing, is that networking isn't about a transaction or an exchange. It's about finding people to connect with, like have an emotional connection with. And that's business in general. And that's how we sell anything. So I think about the clients that we work with, the brands that we promote. It's all about, does this ad, does this program make them feel something? Because emotionally engaged people are loyal. They're 3 times more likely to buy or repurchase when they feel something from you. They're advocates. They're 3 times more likely to recommend you to somebody else. And they're much less price sensitive, which is what we all in business are interested in as well. So when you develop that connection, that moment that you feel seen and that you feel like you've helped somebody else, those types of things are when you achieve a lot more in business, as opposed to going in to try to sell something. So I want to move networking from being about networking and being more about to being selling, to networking being more about serving people. So a couple people mentioned on the call, which is my favorite, one of my favorite tips is walk into a room not with who's going to talk to me or who am I going to talk to or what's less intimidating or what's less, and be the one to find somebody else and help them. So this idea of finding the people on the fringe, I love that one, because sometimes you're right, they're the most interesting people, and oftentimes they're the most nervous people. And so to be able to walk into somebody who looks uncomfortable and to be able to approach them and help them, it feels really good. My other favorite thing, and you probably experience it yourself as well, is asking a lot of questions and being very curious. Is the most effective way to network and to build a connection as well. Just one sec. I'm just going to mute here for just one sec if I can find myself. We had a screaming baby, Jonathan, sorry. It's a family resort. I don't know what to tell you. Okay, so yeah, asking lots of questions. That's my other favorite thing. I get asked all the time, but I don't know what to talk about. I get in these positions and I don't know what to talk about. And I say, then stop talking. Just ask questions and listen to people genuinely. It's the most effective way to build a bond with someone. It feels really good because you're being curious and you're learning lots of new things. But again, it's about taking the focus off of yourself there to do and achieve, and about reaching out and helping somebody else and asking questions. So that, and I feel it, like even when I talk about it, it just alleviates all the pressure to just find someone who's on the fringe, who looks a little awkward, to walk over and start asking them questions about themselves and listening and asking follow-up questions, picking up on little details, watching what lights them up. People will give you all sorts of cues. And Jonathan and I were just talking about this actually before we got on the call, this idea of reading the room a little bit. You can watch someone when you're asking them a question and you hit on something that starts to light them up. And you can also watch when you're losing them as well. So as you move forward, you can kind of start to navigate that a little bit, like, wow, okay, so, oh, you were just on vacation. That's great. What types of things that you did or did you do? And they will, when they hit on scuba diving, or they laid by the beach, or they read books, and then, oh, what book? Those don't seem like traditional forms of networking, but they really are. It doesn't always have to be about business. It's about watching what lights someone up and being curious and asking them more questions. So thinking through, I always think through when I'm in a conversation, and now it's programmed in my brain, how can I help you solve a problem? And I've had conversations that's just been, oh, it's, really good to meet you. So, what brings you here? How do you blah, blah, blah. Oh, you're new to town. That's fantastic. How do you like it? Oh, it's great. But I miss my hairstylist. I haven't found the right person. And I'm like, oh, you have to meet Jenny. She's amazing. Here's her number. You can text her, and walk away. And it seems ridiculous, but it's not. It's when you serve someone, you help someone, they're going to remember you. It's going to come back to you. And you can always follow up. You can always go back and send an email and say, it was so nice to meet you. Welcome again to town. I hope you get along well with your hairstylist, and move on. And that is networking. So, and that's, for me, that's how I've built the most kind of significant relationships in my life, is conversations just like that. So a few other tricks that have been really powerful for me, and also have taken me a lot of years to kind of figure out, and I've watched a lot of people. And when you watch someone who can work a room, like they light up the room, and you've seen it. They walk in, they're confident, they're engaging, they're asking questions, they're helping you solve problems, they're making connections. But a couple of things that I've seen that are really magical is, first and foremost, they master the art of a really great introduction. So it's someone who is able to take someone else and introduce them into your group, or introduce them to the person that you're talking to. And it'll sound something like, I'm talking to John, and John sees Jane walk by, and John goes, Kerry Anne, just a moment. Jane, come on over here. I want to introduce you to Kerry Anne. Kerry Anne's from Charlottetown. She owns a branding agency. They really work on a lot of creative campaigns. And I know that your organization is looking for someone to, I just wanted to make the connection and introduce the two of you. Or it could be, Jane, come on over here. Kerry Anne, I want you to meet Jane. Jane and I golf together every time we go away on our annual conference. She's amazing. I know you just joined a ladies league and you were just asking me some questions. You should talk to Jane. That also sounds a little, when you're in it, it's a little more natural. But you see the idea of it is giving someone a great introduction, pulling a detail from them. Have you met Tanya? Tanya's been coming to this conference for a really long time, or Tanya knows the area really, really well. I know that you're interested in vacationing here. You should talk to Tanya and see if she has any tips. Those types of interactions, so you're connecting, you're taking you out of it. And I think that that's what feels really good, is you're taking you out of it and you're making it about two other people. Now, if Tanya and Jane end up having a great connection, they might have become friends, they might work together, they might whatever. And even if not, the next time they see Kerry Anne, they're going to remember that Kerry Anne introduced Tanya and Jane and they had this interaction. So this art of a great introduction, and I've watched people just work a whole room like that, in and out. They just weave in and out. Oh my goodness, Sarah, you need to come meet. Yeah, you two would really get along. And then they leave. And there's not a business card to be dropped. There's not that moment where it turns from a conversation to a transaction, which is what I've had often too. I think I'm having a great conversation with someone, and then all of a sudden there's this moment where it turns from having this really great conversation to this, and here's the business card. Now it's become transactional. And we're not saying there's not a place for a business card. It's just being mindful of kind of what it's really all about. The second thing is invite people into a conversation and catch them up. So I love this one. If I see someone that I know or don't know and they look a little awkward or they look a little off, or maybe I've met them a couple of times, but I don't know them really well, I'll just invite them into the conversation that I'm having. So as opposed to somebody trying to tap in and get into the conversation, I just invite them right in. So I might be having a conversation with Carol, and I see Angela just kind of on the outside. So Carol and I are having a really good conversation. We're talking about this great beach read that I'm reading right now. And I just see Angela, and I just put my hand just on Carol's shoulder, just a second. Angela, come on over here. I want to introduce you to Carol. Carol, this is Angela. Angela, this is Carol. Carol and I were actually just talking about this book that I was reading, and it's so funny. And it's got, have you read that? Yes, there's a Netflix series on it. Yes, exactly. And then the three of us are now having a conversation. And so it's inviting people in, introducing other people, connecting other people is a form of serving. It's a form of serving, and it's a great way to feel good about networking. It's a great way to work a whole room. The third thing that works really well for me is to get a wing person. So I'm lucky enough that I have a business partner, and oftentimes we travel to these things together. And it's honestly becomes so seamless in ways. She's like kind of like my work wife, right? And so it's like when you're traveling with your partner, I'm here on a conference with my partner, and I know if he doesn't introduce me to someone immediately, or like, it's because he doesn't know their name. We have figured that out. It's like he doesn't know how to introduce me because he can't remember their name. So now it's an unspoken thing. I wait a minute. If we walk up to a group of people, I wait a moment. And then if he doesn't introduce me within a reasonable amount of time, I just put my hand in and say, hi, it's so good to meet you. I'm Kerry Anne. I don't make it awkward, but I know that's what's happening. Dawn and I do the same types of things. So we go to events as wing people. So we have moments like that we've worked out. I know when she's stuck, we're going to talk about that. When you get stuck in a corner with someone and you can't kind of get out and they're talking to you, how to save her. We know that there's groups of people she knows through different networks, and we introduce each other. So having someone to go in pairs is really powerful as well. And finally, this is a really simple one, but I'll tell you why it's important. So know the news before you go. There's nothing more beautiful than someone, again, who makes it not about them, but makes it about you. So before I go to any of our local events, I always read the Chamber magazine. I always go to the Business Women's Association and I look at the website. And what I'm looking for is not so that I seem smart and up to date, which is part of it. It's so that I know how to personalize conversations with people in the room. So it's so nice when you're able to find someone in the room, and instead of keeping that small talk, which I don't do really well with anyways, but instead of keeping that small talk like, so Tara, tell me what you do. Tell me, oh, wow, interesting. Like it takes it to, Tara, I just read about your company in that magazine. That is fantastic. Congratulations. How long ago? How long have you been doing this? Where did that come from? So just knowing those little bits of information, your company, just got Volunteer of the Year award at the Junior Achievement, whatever. That is so impressive. Congratulations. So tell me more. How did that feel? Was it, have you won something like this before? That's the power of knowing the news before you go. So it's not necessarily your local news, which is also great. Can't know too much about what's going on, but it's this idea. It also gives you great conversation starters, because sometimes you see some industry highlights. So I go back to the chamber because it's the most relevant one, but they'll put out updates on things that they're advocating for, right? Or we have an election going on right now. So they'll put forward kind of some of their positioning and some of their, so I take a peek at that, and then I get into groups, and oftentimes that's the topic area. So you're able to contribute, or you're at least able to say, yeah, I actually read that myself. Interesting take on that. So that's a really important one for helping to always have something to kind of talk about. And making people feel really good and feel really seen, which feels good for me too. Self-serving. Okay, I'm going to pause for just one quick second. The right wing person is a game changer. Amber, do you have a wing person?
When I used to attend events back in university, I had a good friend of mine that used to go to conferences and all kinds of events. And it was a game changer, of especially the comment you made about like forgetting somebody's name, of coming in. I'm like, oh, you need to meet my friend Megan. I'll be right back. I'm just gonna grab a glass of water, and then she gets the scoop in, and we're both on the same page. So yeah, I need a new wing person if anybody is shopping.
Anybody shopping? We should have an app. And instead of Tinder, we find our wing person.
Definitely, it is. It's super helpful.
Yeah, that's great. I love it. It makes me feel more confident. Like, it makes me feel like I'm not there alone. I know somebody's there and kind of watching, and I can grab them. And again, for those awkward moments, I'm still human. I think we all still have those awkward moments where you're like, I don't have anyone to talk to. I'm standing by myself. And so it's nice to just have someone there. So what I wanted to chat about was, and this is more of a lighthearted kind of take on networking, but there's a few characters that I've met throughout the years as I've continued to network, and I'm sure you might have as well. So these are just some little tips and tricks that I've learned along the way. The first character is the chatty Cathy. And those are the people where you start a conversation with them, and you're doing your thing, and you ask the question, and then they just don't stop talking. And it can be really awkward. And I find that some people are really good at just cutting that off and saying, I'm so sorry to interrupt, and you just have to run, or I see someone. I'm not good at that. I would sit there all day and listen to someone if they kept talking. So I really had to learn, how do I make sure that I can get in and out of these conversations in a fluid manner? I want to build a good connection, but I don't want to spend the whole night talking to someone about my favorite beach read. So for me, what's worked really well is the tactic of politely bringing someone else into the conversation. So I mentioned talking to Carol, and then I see Angela. Well, if Carol's a chatty Cathy and we're having a good go, it's kind of self-serving, and it's kind of throwing Angela under the bus a little bit, but I'm going to pull Angela into that, and then I'm going to politely excuse myself from the conversation. So it's going to be, oh, just a minute, Carol. Yes, absolutely. Angela, you are going to love the story. Come on in. I know I haven't. Yes. Good. How are things? Funny. Carol is just talking about her favorite book. Okay, great. I'm going to just go grab a drink. And I have done that many times. Pull someone in and then wait for the moment. Master the art of a great introduction. You should meet Angela. You'll love, she's by Crab Mountain. I know you love to ski. She's going to give you all the tips and tricks, and excuse myself. So, and your wing person can really help with the chatty Cathys as well. But the thing is, you just don't want to get in. I've been, I hope it lands okay when I say this. I've been very effective at building a good conversation to the point of not being able to get out of it. So for me, that's been a really helpful tool and a helpful tip. And I've also emailed Chatty Cathy after and said, I wish I had more time to learn more about but I wish you all the best with it. Good luck, and I'll see you at the next event. And off you go. The next character has been the Debbie Downer. So I have been caught chatting with someone who's just so negative, and I work really, really hard to not stay in those places very long. But sometimes you run into those characters. I sat next to one on the plane, and again, it's not necessarily a networking event, but they're just certain personalities. And all I do is I try to get to the point in the conversation where you can put your headphones back in, or there's that break where you can pick up your book. But when you're in that exchange, some of the things that's really worked well for me is to accentuate the positive. So the lady I was talking to on the plane today, had problems with the resort that I'm staying at. Because she's on vacation. Oh, where are you going? Where are you staying? Oh, what's your resort? We're staying at this place. Oh, my husband and I went there a few years ago. It's terrible. And the surface and the this and the that. So I just accentuate. So what was your favorite part? What was your favorite part about staying there? And she was like, well, I mean, the service was pretty good, or the this and the that. Oh, that's really good. And then you're able to kind of turn the conversation a little bit and then exit from that, and it leaves the conversation. Because I found when you're with someone who is focusing on the negative, exiting the conversation still leaves that negativity kind of lingering in the air. So I like to just ask a couple of nice questions to try to flip the energy. And then I just politely said to her, well, I hope you have a better vacation this time. Enjoy the sun. Regardless, you're going to get some sun. And then I just put my headphones in and off we went. And so again, it's not necessarily in a networking environment, but the same works for everywhere. This one is the most awkward one. And it's so funny because I actually, just before I left home, I watched something on, I was like W5 or something, saying that this tactic, which I learned in a networking book, is a tactic that they use when they interview people, like when they bring people in for different crimes or different whatever. This is a tactic that they actually use to help people continue to talk. So in a networking environment, I call it the won't participate in conversation person, the one that like they're there, but maybe it's because they're awkward or maybe whatever, but it's really hard to pull anything out of them to get that dialogue going. I take a few minutes and I just repeat the last 1 to 3 words of their sentence and put a question mark on the end. So John, tell me, what do you do? I'm in finance, or I'm in accounting. Oh, in accounting. And then the silence almost gets them to continue to kind of talk. Yeah. And then if you just don't say anything, just let the silence sit for just a moment, which can be really awkward. But the longer you let the silence linger, the longer that they will come back. They won't let it stay forever. They will come back. And you just let it linger for just a moment. Yeah. Well, the accounting world's not an easy one right now. It's challenging for sure. How so? Or challenging how? Challenging times? Yeah, well, you can't get it. We're working, but well, I'm happy I'll be going on vacation. Perfect. Tell me more about your vacation. Where are you going? And then they tend to light up and you can kind of watch that. But it's so bizarre that this tactic was in this book. And then I actually saw that it's a real legit tactic that people use to get people talking. So those are just a few of the characters that I've met over time. Those are some of the tips that I have. The repeat is a similar one to a chatty Cathy. They're at every mixer and they tell you the same stories over and over and over again. And I listen to them, but I've already heard them. And again, it goes back to the tip of introduce new people to the conversation. Take Terry or take Jim and say, I want you to come meet these. And then you'll be able to say, you know what, Jim? You've actually shared that story with me before. You know who would love that story? Kerry Anne. She's actually a great golfer. Kerry Anne, come over here. Jim has this amazing, you're going to love this. The two of you need to connect over this and politely excuse yourself. So it's just working the room and introducing people and making connections and finding ways to connect other people. For me, has worked really well over the years. And if we had more time, which we don't, wrap up, but we would talk about the excessive toucher, the oversharer, the obsessive competitor, and the overdrinker. But we'll save that. Maybe there'll be a part 2. We'll touch on those another time. So to sum it up, the nerves are normal. Every single person in the room feels nervous. Even if they're working the room, even if they look like they know everyone, even before they got in that room, they had the butterflies. They're working the room and they're thinking about it. It is not a super comfortable environment for everyone, no matter how confident they look. So just remember that the nerves are normal. The nerves can actually be a great help in some ways. And yeah, you're certainly not alone. And for me, when I'm in an interaction or I've left an event, when you leave an event and you're like, ooh, that did not feel good. Or like, why did I say that? Or why did I do try to reflect on that just a little bit to try to get to the root cause of it. Why am I so worried that I said that? Why am I so? And for me, often it comes down to, that wasn't a very authentic moment for me. I might have agreed with something I didn't really agree with. I might have said something that but I encourage you to just kind of reflect on those moments and just say, so what is it that doesn't feel good? And for me, sometimes it's been the whole event was not where those are not my people. That is not where I wanted to be. And that's okay too, because your people aren't in every room. That's normal. So networking, like I said, should leave you feeling good. It should leave like you helped someone. It should leave you feeling like you connected someone. And the follow-up is really powerful as well. Sending that email, and it's not sending the email to make it transactional. It's sending an email to say, you know what, Kerry Anne, it was so good to meet you last night. We have so much in common when it comes to, that part of our business. I'd love to have a coffee and catch up and maybe talk a little bit more about that. That feels really good. And then when you go into that coffee or go into that conversation, there's a good baseline of trust there, right? I know what I'm going to get when I get there. I know that you're there and we're going to have this good dialogue and this really good connection. So the follow-up is important as well. I don't know how I'm doing for time, but that's all I've got. I droned on for a really long time. I appreciate the attention, and I just want to open it up to any kind of questions or thoughts on any of that. Feel good? Feel bad?
I thought it was great. I'm still trying to process it. That's a lot of information. So it was I have a lot of notes. So yeah, I didn't want it to be silent because I did really enjoy it, and I'm gonna probably have questions, but I didn't want the silence there. I wanted to know how much I'm sure we all enjoyed it. So thank you.
Thank you, Angela. That's awesome. I appreciate that. Carol.
Yeah, I want to reiterate that. It was great, a lot of information, and made me laugh a lot of times because I guess that's like those environments, we all been there. What I realized as well, I could have said as a tip, whenever we try to organize networking event, we were always trying to put a little bit of animation or something that everybody can have an opinion about. So if it's okay, of course, with the circus, we can have a little presentation of an act or something, but this is helpful in those type of events because everybody can gather and look something for 3 minutes and then after have an opinion about it. And that's a great entry door to start a conversation. So we realize that it's also something that can be helpful.
I love that. It's really, I think what you hit on is so important. It's about finding common ground, which maybe is what sums up a lot of what's in the presentation, but just in a nicer, tighter way. It's that connection when you find common ground with someone, right? And so that's awesome. And that's such a great way to do that, to open that door. Any other thoughts or questions?
One of the things that I always, this takes time, and as I've gotten older and get towards the end of my career, you get a little bit more comfortable in these situations. But, my belief is that if you know who you are and you know what your core belief and value and story is, then when you go into these things, it isn't about, I've got to make the sale on anyone. And where Kerry Anne went with this, to me, is the key to all of these things, is that we want authentic relationships. If anything coming out of COVID, I've learned that, man, this shit is hard. And I only have so much time and I only have so much energy. And I want to focus that on people who want to share in the core values and beliefs of what I want to do as an organization or what we want to do as a community. And, I think having these real conversations is key in these types of environments. And we've built through GMIST these networking, which is basically very much what Kerry Anne talked about. Just, I call it the barroom conversation, where we've built across North America things that, for lack of a better word, we were jotting things down on backs of napkins. And, all of a sudden we had connections in, New Mexico, or we had connections in Vancouver. And it was because Angela, told me about Carol, and, we were able to then connect up and do those types of things. So, I think it's being comfortable in your own skin. That takes time. I wish I could say that, I knew that right coming out, but in the beginning, it was all about, my God, I got to get Angela, I got to get Stella, I got to get Amber, I got to get Anastasia, because I got to have them all, got to get all their cards. And, at the end of the day, it was a really interesting process to learn, okay, who am I going to connect with? And then what is it that we're trying to do at the end of the day with those connections, which is really cool. And now I know anytime Kerry Anne introduces me to anyone, she's just trying to slide out of the conversation, right? And pass that person on to me now. So,
You know, I never thought of that. I never thought of that. This is now recorded and all my tricks. All my tricks are out there. But what I love about that is it is true. I think that when you're really confident, I love that. I love connecting people. I love being curious and learning more. Like if I could learn more about Stella's paintings and like that's such a beautiful opportunity for me to educate myself and to be so. To your point, Jonathan, about, you know, being in your own skin and walking in like you don't have anything to prove because you feel good about yourself and you just focus on learning and listening and connecting. It's such a beautiful game changer, and the business will come and the right ones will come. I think that's the biggest thing, right? The right ones will come, people that you connect with.
Any final sort of questions or comments anyone wants to make? We're coming up on the top of our hour or bottom of the half hour, depending on where you live. Awesome.
I really like the idea of changing the view of networking to being in service and being like most of you and being more of an introvert and more shy on the shy side. I think that looking for the other person in the fringes and because I'm not confident enough to approach someone else who's standing alone. I can easily do that, but not as easily insert myself into an existing group that's already talking. That particular thing I think can really work for me and is really helpful to learn here today. I probably never would have thought of that on my own.
That's so great. Oh, thank you. Thank you. I love to hear that. That's great. Yeah, it feels good. I've been the awkward person in the corner and I've had people approach me and it just feels safe. It feels good. I feel like I've been seen. So being able to reciprocate that is a pretty nice feeling.
I agree. I mean, when you have that introductory and thank God, I think COVID destroyed this whole, here's my business card right at the very first thing. I'm like, oh my God, this is just somebody who's handing out business cards. This is like scattered gun approach marketing, right? It's like, if I put 1,000 business cards out, hopefully I'll get, 3 people that might buy my mattresses or something like that. And it's, it's a bygone era in regards to, how you want to approach your networking side of things. Once again, folks, we're coming up on the hour, and I said I would only keep you for an hour, and I want to stay true to that. Thank you, Kerry Anne. This was great information. Really appreciate it. Always love our conversations with you. This is our last session for the winter. We've got a group of these that we are hoping to have up for the fall, probably by the end of the spring. So stay tuned for those. If you want more of Kerry Anne MacDougal and her insights, stay tuned as well. We've got another suite of things that we're going to be doing with Kerry Anne, and those who have participated with her in our high value marketing online course can attest that there's some really cool things that we dig into. A number of other things that are coming up on the GMIST site as well. I feel like I'm selling now. Sorry, I should be networking. I should be asking you questions versus selling you stuff here now. But just for your own information, there's a number of things that we'll have posted up on the GMIST site. Once again, we're here to serve you as industry in Atlantic Canada and across the country. So if there are things or topics that you want us to pursue or think about, please feel free to email those through to us, and we'll look into them. Or if there is somebody that you think we should network with that could be a great speaker or presenter, we'd be happy to hear that as well. At the end, you're going to get a little link to a survey. If you can take a few moments, it's 4 questions, I think, just to do a little evaluation on what you took away from the session. That would be great. It helps us with the investors who help offset the costs of these sessions. once again, thank you, Kerry Anne, and thank you to everyone who took time out of your busy days. We really appreciate it, and have a great day. Thanks.
Thank you.